Take the charm of a classic animated movie, mix in kingdom management, and throw a crown onto a cat-eared prince who just got ousted from his home kingdom in a bloody coup. That is the wild ride of Ni no Kuni 2nd. You play as young Prince Evan, who wakes up on the worst day of his life, loses his throne, and decides the only reasonable response is to build an entirely new kingdom from scratch where everyone can live happily ever after. Combat ditches the creature capturing mechanics from the first game in favor of fast-paced, real-time action, where you/monsters swap between 3 weapons on the fly and summon cute little magical elemental spirits called Higgledies to heal your team or drop giant fireballs on enemies. When you're not beating up monsters, you're running Evermore, recruiting quirky NPCs across the continent, assigning them to research facilities, and expanding your territory. There are even full-scale military skirmish battles where Evan commands tiny armies like a mini general on the overworld map. The Prince's Edition bundles in every single DLC expansion right from the start, giving you extra story chapters, deep martial arts dungeons, and endless loot. Watching your small town grow into a massive sprawling empire never gets old, and the vibrant visuals make every quiet field and bustling city feel like walking directly inside a fairy tale world. Originally stuck in Japan on the Super Famicom, Leave Alive broke free with a stunning HD 2D remake that proves its original 90s concept was decades ahead of its time. Instead of following one linear party across a fantasy world, this anthology RPG splits its journey into 7 distinct chapters across human history, letting you play them in whatever order you choose. You jump from a caveman in prehistory who communicates entirely through funny facial expressions, to an aging martial arts master in Imperial China, a stealthy ninja in feudal Japan, a Wild West gunslinger setting village traps before a shootout, a modern-day Street Fighter, a mech piloting hero in the near future, and a sci-fi space horror nightmare. Every single historical chapter plays like an entirely different gaming genre, introducing unique gameplay mechanics like telepathy, stealth sneaking, or learning moves directly from boss attacks. Combat takes place on a tactical grid where positioning, tile effects, and attack ranges matter far more than mindlessly grinding levels. Once you complete all 7 historical eras, the game connects every separate storyline together into a dark, mind-bending Final Fantasy chapter that brings all the protagonists together against a legendary overarching evil. Combined with a remastered orchestrated soundtrack from Yoko Shimomura and expressive pixel animation, Leave Alive stands out as an incredible, inventive retro JRPG experiment that keeps RPG players entertained from start to finish.
As the very universe unravels.
Beyond Galaxyland takes the classic 90s JRPG formula, straps a rocket booster to its back, and shoots it headfirst into deep space. You play as Doug, an average high school kid who gets yanked away from Earth right before the entire planet gets erased by a giant cosmic horror. Suddenly, you find yourself hopping between neon-drenched planets alongside your pet guinea pig, Boom Boom, who somehow learned how to fire a literal handgun. That ridiculous setup sets the tone for a story that blends classic turn-based combat with active timing blocks and monster catching. You can scan wild alien creatures, capture them, and summon them later in battle to throw elemental attacks or buff your crew, which feels like a wild crossover between Pokemon and classic Final Fantasy games. Traversing through sprawling cybernetic cities, blizzard-ravaged peaks, and alien jungles keeps the pacing incredibly fresh. While you complete quirky side quests, the platforming can feel a bit floaty when you double jump across wide gaps, but the charming pixel art and banger synth soundtrack make every single location a total joy to explore. What makes this whole package even more mind-blowing is that it was built almost entirely by a solo developer, packing in massive boss fights against giant space dragons, hoverbike racing, and surprisingly witty writing. Anyone missing that golden era of sci-fi adventure games needs to grab a controller and put this one on their radar immediately. Swapping out industrial tractors for saber-toothed tigers and mammoths, Roots of Pacha takes the cozy farming life simulator concept back to the Stone Age. Instead of inheriting your grandpa's rundown modern farm, you belong to a nomadic prehistoric clan that decides to settle down in a fertile new valley. Progression here is built around discovery and community innovation rather than greedily hoarding cash. You work alongside your fellow villagers to research game-changing ideas like irrigation, food preservation, pottery, and animal breeding. Gathering wild crops across mysterious caves, jungles, and high mountain peaks lets you domesticate wild vegetables and plant your very first farm fields. You can play soothing tunes on a flute to tame wild ostriches, boar, and mammoths, converting them into loyal farm pets, or riding them across the map at top speed. The complete absence of money shifts the vibe. Trading items contributes directly to a shared clan prosperity pool that unlocks new upgrades for the entire village. With smooth pixel art, rich cave exploration full of puzzle solving, and full co-op support where you build a flourishing settlement with friends, this cozy prehistoric gem feels surprisingly fresh. It strips away modern stress and replaces it with pure community-driven, cozy farming goodness that will easily eat up dozens of peaceful hours while delivering a relaxing gameplay that hits all the right notes for life simulation enthusiasts everywhere. Back in 1996, Nintendo teamed up with Square to create one of the most beloved crossover role-playing games ever made, and this full remake faithfully rebuilds that timeless masterpiece from the ground up with gorgeous modern 3D graphics. When a giant sentient sword named Exor crashes directly through Bowser's iconic castle and shatters the wish-granting Star Road into 7 pieces, Mario has to team up with an unlikely crew to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Seeing Bowser forced to join Mario's party as a temporary ally, literally throwing Mario at monsters alongside a fluffy cloud prince named Mallow and a living wooden doll named Gino, remains pure comedy. The classic turn-based combat introduced timed action commands to the RPG genre, letting you tap buttons with exact precision to deal extra damage, block incoming strikes, and build a combo gauge for cinematic triple attacks. Yoko Shimomura's legendary soundtrack sounds better than ever with dynamic new orchestrated arrangements. Though retro purists can easily toggle back to the original SNES chiptunes at any time in the options menu. Quality of life additions like auto-saving, quick party, swapping mid-battle, and challenging post-game boss rematches fix every minor annoyance from the original release. Whether you played the classic on CRT televisions decades ago, or are stepping into Star Road for the very first time, this remake captures pure Nintendo magic, delivering a timeless, joyful adventure that comfortably belongs in every RPG fan's gaming collection. Even years after release, The Witcher 3 stands tall as the absolute golden standard for open-world action RPGs. You step into the muddy boots of Geralt of Rivia, a cynical, monster-hunting mutant tasked with tracking down his adopted daughter before an apocalyptic spectral army gets to her first. The main story is phenomenal, but let us be totally honest about what actually happens during a standard playthrough. You start heading toward a critical story mission, spot a yellow notice board in a grimy village, and suddenly spend 4 straight hours investigating a haunted well or helping a peasant find a lost goat. The side quests in this world are famously better written than the main campaigns of most other games, throwing morally gray choices at you where no option feels clean. Combat is a satisfying blend of sword dancing, magic signs, and alchemy, though your loyal horse Roach will occasionally break the laws of physics by spawning directly on top of a thatched roof. Then there is Gwent, the addictive in-universe card game that systematically destroys every player's sense of urgency. Apocalyptic world-ending threats can wait, because Geralt urgently needs to win a rare card from a random local merchant in Novigrad. Packed with brilliant characters, legendary DLC expansions, and unmatched atmosphere, returning to Velen always feels like visiting home, assuming your home is infested with drowners, wild beasts, and terrifying swamp hags. Rogue Legacy 2 takes the brilliant genealogical suicide mission concept from the original indie classic and refines every single moving part into pure roguelite perfection. The core gameplay remains simple. You pick a brave knight, march into a constantly shifting magical castle, slaughter monsters, collect gold, and inevitably die a gruesome death. Once your hero perishes, you select one of their biological heirs to continue the family legacy. Here is where things get hilarious, because every heir comes with random genetic traits that radically alter how you play the game. One child might be a massive giant with extended sword reach, while their sibling suffers from severe color blindness, chronic flatulence, or a medical condition where defeat turns enemies into slices of pizza. You're constantly balancing ridiculous physical handicaps against high gold multipliers, sending a vertigo-stricken archer into a total death trap just to afford a permanent mana upgrade back at base camp. Combat feels remarkably crisp, responsive, and buttery smooth compared to the first game, featuring distinct character classes like bards, frying pan chefs, and dual-wielding gunslingers. Deep meta progression guarantees that even your absolute worst runs contribute toward expanding a massive castle estate that boosts health and stats for future generations. Watching your chaotic family tree grow into a lineage of deeply dysfunctional yet extremely wealthy warriors makes this one of the single most replayable action platformers ever created. Disco Elysium? The final cut is less like a traditional video game and more like a wild fever dream murder investigation where your own brain chemistry is constantly trying to kill you. You wake up on a trash-littered hostel floor as an amnesiac detective with the worst hangover in human history, having forgotten your own name, your police badge, and why there is a body hanging from a tree in the backyard. There is no traditional combat system here. Gameplay revolves around navigating intense conversations and rolling dice, while 24 distinct aspects of your personality argue inside your head. Your logic skill might present a sensible deduction, while your electrochemistry skill screams at you to do something terribly irresponsible. The Final Cut Edition adds phenomenal full voice acting for literally every single character and internal thought, elevating the brilliant writing into an absolute high point for narrative RPG design. What makes the game so unforgettable is how it genuinely embraces total failure. Failing a skill check almost never leads to a boring game over screen. Instead, it usually results in some of the funniest, most bizarre interactions imaginable, like accidentally giving yourself a fatal heart attack trying to retrieve an ugly tie from a ceiling fan. Accompanied by your long-suffering partner, Kim Kitsuragi, you navigate political corruption and personal tragedy in a gritty world that feels amazingly alive, smart, and unforgettable. Chained Echoes is a love letter to classic 16-bit JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and Xenogears, but it strips away all the outdated clunkiness that used to make 90s games exhausting, created almost entirely by a solo developer. This title drops you into a war-torn continent filled with political betrayal, sky pirates, ancient curses, and massive pilotable mech suits called Sky Armors. Turn-based combat is fast and strategic, built around a genius mechanic called the overdrive meter. Every skill you cast pushes a needle along a color-coded gauge. Keep that needle in the sweet green zone and your abilities cost less skill points while your entire party deals big damage. Push it too far into the red zone, however, and your team overheats, taking extra damage from every enemy attack. That dynamic turns every single battle into a fun tactical balancing act where you constantly swap party members or use defense commands to lower heat. Eliminating annoying random encounters entirely means you can see every monster roaming the map, keeping the story pacing snappy throughout the entire 40-hour journey. Combat evolves even further once you hop inside customizable flying mechs, giving you two totally distinct combat systems that support each other seamlessly. Combine all that with a brilliant soundtrack, beautiful pixel graphics, and a fantasy story that never treats you like an idiot, and you have an absolute must-play modern RPG for any true fan.
Burned. That was the day we enlisted.
World War II fiction gets a gorgeous anime watercolor makeover in Valkyria Chronicles 4, delivering one of the most uniquely styled tactical strategy RPGs on the market. You follow Commander Claude Wallace and his childhood friends in Squad E as they fight through a brutal snow-covered alternate history European war. The game uses a clever battle system that merges top-down turn-based strategy with third-person action. You select a unit from an overhead map, step directly into their shoes, and manually move them across the battlefield while taking real-time enemy gunfire before aiming your shot. Every class brings a specific role to the fight, from deadly snipers and engineers repairing sandbags to heavy mortar touting grenadiers who rain explosive shells over defensive walls. You also command a massive armored tank named Hafen that can crash through barricades and obliterate enemy pillboxes. Beyond the tactical firefights, the story spends plenty of time fleshing out your squad members through optional side stories, turning nameless soldiers into genuine characters you actually care about keeping alive. Managing action points while dodging incoming interception fire creates a thrilling blend of careful planning and twitch reflexive action. The gorgeous pencil sketch art style makes every dramatic explosion look like a living watercolor painting. Tactical strategy fans wanting a deep story-heavy campaign packed with massive battlefields, emotional character arcs, and rich customization will find themselves hooked from the very first drop of snow, ready to lead Squad E straight to victory. Dripping in glowing neon lights, rain-slicked concrete, and killer synthwave beats, Jak Move delivers a concentrated dose of cyberpunk, turn-based RPG goodness without any unnecessary bloat. You play as Noah Solaris, a vigilante hacker in a gritty, futuristic metropolis who stumbles into a massive corporate conspiracy after her estranged father mysteriously vanishes. Combat swaps out traditional swords and fantasy magic for cyberware deck customization. You install specialized custom software onto your deck that acts as offensive attacks, defensive shields, and stat buffs during strategic turn-based encounters. Managing your RAM capacity forces you to constantly swap out software patches mid-fight to target enemy vulnerabilities against corporate goons, rogue AI programs, and dangerous automated killer drones. When your meter fills, you execute a devastating Jak Move ultimate ability that unleashes flashy screen-shaking pixel animations to obliterate bosses. What makes this adventure stand out is its laser focus. Instead of dragging you through 50 hours of repetitive filler fetch quests, the campaign wraps up in a tight, fast-paced 6 to 8 hour experience. Beautiful CRT filter options, incredibly detailed character sprites, and witty banter between Noah and her tactical support buddy keep the narrative moving at a brisk tempo. Anyone looking for a stylish, retro-inspired RPG that respects their busy lifestyle will fall in love with this gorgeous indie cyberpunk thriller immediately, proving big adventures can come in small, highly polished packages. Felseal Arbiter's Mark is basically a giant love letter to anyone who spent their entire childhood obsessing over Final Fantasy Tactics, taking that classic isometric grid combat and modernizing it into something ridiculously addicting. You control Kyrie, an Arbiter who essentially acts as a traveling judge, jury, and enforcer for a powerful council ruling over a fantasy realm. When routine patrol duty spirals into uncovering deep political corruption, you end up assembling a custom squad of mercenaries to restore order. The real magic here lies inside the class system. You have over 20 different classes, and because every unit can dual class while carrying over passive abilities from previous jobs, you end up creating absurdly broken character builds. Want a heavy knight who hurls elemental magic or a sneaky rogue who heals teammates with holy spells? Go right ahead. Instead of permanently losing your favorite units when they go down in battle, Felseal introduces a clever injury mechanic where defeated characters take stat penalties until they rest on the bench for a round. That genius design choice forces you to build a deep, versatile roster rather than relying on the exact same 6 heroes every single encounter. Item management is equally slick, giving you reusable potions that replenish after every single fight. With tons of custom difficulty sliders and deep tactical encounters, this indie gem delivers top-tier strategic gameplay without any outdated retro frustration. Most action roguelites throw a lone, mysterious warrior into a deadly dungeon, but Children of Morta shakes up the formula by turning your entire dungeon crawling expedition into a tight-knit family affair. You guide the Bergson family, a line of guardians tasked with purging an ancient evil corruption spreading across their mountain home. What makes this journey special is that you're not just playing as one static hero, you get an entire household of playable relatives who each bring wildly different combat styles to the table. John fights like a traditional sword and shield tank. Linda snipes foes from afar with a bow, Kevin slashes rapidly with dual daggers, and Lucy throws volatile fire magic across crowded rooms. Rather than penalizing you for switching characters, the game actively encourages family rotation by granting shared family traits that permanently boost everyone in the house when individual members level up. After finishing a chaotic run through procedural caverns, you return to a cozy mountain estate where heartfelt animated cutscenes unpack the domestic drama, quiet moments, and deep emotional bonds of the family. The gorgeous hand-painted pixel art and soothing narrator make every single victory or painful defeat feel deeply meaningful. Balancing intense hack and slash action with genuine emotional storytelling transforms what could have been a standard dungeon crawler into a memorable fantasy adventure about love, family sacrifice, and sticking together when everything around you goes straight to hell.
Guide Itsuki Aoi through this deadly shadow realm.
Blending Shin Megami Tensei's demonic dungeon crawling with Fire Emblem's iconic heroes inside the hyper-flashy world of modern Japanese pop idols sounds absurd on paper, but Tokyo Mirage Sessions' FE Encore somehow pulls off this wild crossover with style. You follow a group of aspiring teenage entertainers in Tokyo who secretly work for a talent agency that protects the world from evil interdimensional phantoms called Mirages. Legendary Fire Emblem characters like Chrome, Keita, and Tharja appear as ghostly Persona-like partners, granting your party weapon transformations and magical abilities. Turn-based battles take place on massive neon concert stages, revolving around the addicting session combo system. Strike an enemy's elemental or weapon weakness, and your entire off-screen squad automatically leaps onto the stage to chain together an absurd string of follow-up attacks. The Encore edition enhances the experience even further by adding extra story scenes, new costumes, and quick swap ally assists that make combo chains longer and more chaotic than ever before. Dungeons are themed around colorful entertainment venues featuring clever spatial puzzles like navigating giant animated mannequins or moving stage lights. Beneath all the glittering J-pop aesthetics, catchy musical performances, and vibrant idol choreography lies an unexpectedly deep combat system that rewards smart party customization. RPG fans willing to embrace the sheer campy weirdness will discover one of the most slick, energetic, and satisfying turn-based combat systems of the entire era.
What has become of this city? There used to be laws, justice.
Trading in the high fantasy magic of Stick of Truth for an all-out superhero civil war, South Park's The Fractured But Whole delivers a hilarious, crude, and surprisingly tactical RPG experience that feels like playing through a multi-season TV arc. You step back into the quiet mountain town as the new kid, joining Cartman's rival superhero franchise Kuni and friends as they wage war against Freedom Pals while battling corrupt cops, feline kidnappers, and weird cultists. The humor is classic Trey Parker and Matt Stone, packed with relentless social satire, absurd running gags, and outrageous superpower origins that range from tragic childhood memories to nuclear fart powers. Combat received a massive upgrade over the original game, swapping out basic turn-based strikes for a full tactical battlefield grid system where spatial positioning, knockbacks, and status effects play huge roles in victory. You can mix and match abilities from multiple superhero archetypes like speedsters, cyborgs, and elementalists, creating ridiculous custom power loadouts on the fly while utilizing time-bending farts to pause turns, skip enemy attacks, or alter reality itself. Exploration is packed with environmental puzzles, collectible toilets, and hilarious side quests that reward curious players for poking into every single closet, alleyway, and backyard. With authentic voice acting, smooth visuals that match the show's cutout art style, and deeper tactical combat. This sequel proves that hilarious comedy games can deliver fantastic RPG mechanics alongside non-stop offensive laughs.
Okay everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please leave a like and subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to get notified when we release new content. We hope to see you in the next video.